Classic Hits, KDUZ. Good morning. Joel Niemeyer here with you. And we got another MN Scorefeed Blitz as a former Minnesota Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway joins us. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. How's it going?
Doing very well, and boy, this is kind of it's kind of a new situation for us, as there's a lot of positivity going on right now. Twins playing well, Wolves in the playoffs, Wild in the playoffs, Vikings getting ready to draft. I mean, this is a fun time right now.
Yeah, as we sit on today and just look at what's ahead of us this week, and even today itself with draft and T-Wolves and the Twins playing well, it's pretty exceptional time right now in Minnesota sports. We would love for these Wolves to go over the top, though. I mean, that would be the one thing that would kind of set this spring ahead of pretty much every other spring we've had the last 20 years, is to get the Wolves into the next round. And man, we have the team to do it. We just got to find a way.
Well, let's start off with the Wolves then, because we are recording this segment before Game 6 gets played at Target Center here, and just the last couple of games, at the Target Center, games 3 and 4, even though the one was not the nicest game in the world, the atmosphere at Target Center, just from watching on TV and listening on the radio, I mean, that was the place to be. This is an energized town right now.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to see that the Target Center is back in that action and that mode. I mean, I haven't seen it since my rookie year in 2006, and I think the community, you can see it, how much of a basketball town we are. I mean, everybody, it's obviously the state of hockey. We love our Wild, we love our hockey, but not only from the high school level up through college and obviously into the pros, this is a basketball town as well, and we've proven that with the fan base. And obviously, hopefully we see the future and the Wolves get a win tonight. But we think, I think for sure the fans going to be exceptional, and we need to get this win to extend the series.
Now for the Wolves, I mean, the one thing that you obviously can't do in any playoffs, in NBA, NHL, draft, in Vikings, you can't give away a game, and that's kind of what the Wolves did at least once, maybe twice. You could argue on Game 5 too. I mean, that's a big no-no in pro sports. Yeah, and kind of everybody's been coining it. Well, they don't have the experience. Like, well, you have a lot of experience. I think you kind of have to write that off and say you got to go make the play. I always liken it to when you get to say you're a rookie playing the NFL and you make it to the playoffs, you're not a rookie anymore. I mean, you played a full season and have experience and expectations for what to expect from your play. And a lot of these guys we're saying are quote unquote young. I mean, have been in the league for at least 2 years in Ant's case, and in Cat's several years. It's more about can we be mature enough to get that big possession in the fourth quarter when we have to have it? We saw that in Game 5. Obviously we gave one away early, right? And that was a big, you blow the lead and let them back into the series. But Game 5 was tough because that's a game that we were the better team. And if you look at the course of the series, you take away the end score, you watch the games, you would say, wow, the Wolves are a better team here. But we're not getting results. And you can't claim it to be lack of experience or playoff experience. It's about maturity in those tight situations for the coach to call timeout, settle them down, and get a good look, or for the players in the court to say, okay, we've been here before several times. Let's go get a bucket and go to the place we need to get that bucket and keep this 6-8 point lead. Now, one of the more I'll say overused phrases from experts, quote unquote experts, is this is a team built for the playoffs, or this is a team built for the regular season only. Are those valid points? I mean, is there the game is still the game, but is it a little different come playoffs? Well, I think you have to have that guy, right? You have to have a guy that when you get to that possession, you're going to say, we're going to run one of these 3 sets for that guy, and we're going to get a bucket. And you saw what John Morant did in that fourth quarter and taking over the game, and he really wasn't doing a whole lot, to be honest, until that happened. But then now you look at, obviously, in our case, you have several guys you could go to, but who are you going to pick, and what's that going to look like? And is it going to be Cat, or is it going to be Ant? Are you going to, is D'Lo going to get the bucket or the shot? I just find it really interesting, and I'm curious to see how that result takes shape. And I would argue that right now in the fourth quarter, we've at times looked confused, and I think that's coaching and that's players and personnel and not having maybe that guy. And I think that's when you talk about being built to win in the playoffs, is having that guy to get a bucket in that crunch time. Another team headed for the playoffs is the Minnesota Wild. We'll talk about them next on our next segment here on the MN Scorefeed Blitz.
Classic Hits, KDUZ. Joel and Chad Greenway here with you as we talk. We just got done talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now the Minnesota Wild begin playoffs next week. The NHL hasn't released the schedule yet, although we do know, Chad, the Wild will face the Blues, and that just seems like a tough matchup because I don't think the Wild have beaten the Blues yet this year.
I know it seems like every time you turn around, the Blues are getting a big win or being tough to beat, and then you look at the points in the playoff situation, and right now I'm so mad at how the NHL does their playoffs because you play yourself into this unbelievably good position, and you're welcome with the St. Louis Blues in the first round, and may not even have home ice. It's incredible what's kind of how this plays out, and I get why they do it, and I understand it all, but it doesn't make our lives any easier. But the reality is there's no easy path in the NHL specifically. When you talk about a league that you get a puck bounce here or there, it can literally change the course of a series. Man, it's a tough draw for us, but why not? I mean, we have the team, we have the young squad, we have speed, we have skill. Can we get a goalie that's hot at the right time and go get the series? I mean, let's be honest. We haven't beat them, but there's no time like the present. Go out there and get a dub.
Well, and you, at this time of the season, looking down the stretch, the Wild did make some moves. They made some trades, so it seems like they're quote unquote going for it here in the playoffs. Does that give you confidence as a player that hey, management has given us all the pieces we need? They think we're good enough to hoist that cup?
Absolutely. I say, how do you look at it and say there's another team that's far better suited? I mean, obviously, we know what Florida's done. We know there's several other teams that have played really, really good hockey this year. But I do think that you look at this team and say, you know what, if we get hot right now in playoff time, it can be us. And go get this first series, because I think this first series, when you get through it, you may look at a second series and say, hey, this is going to be an easier matchup than the first one. And it's pretty rare to be able to say that.
Now, as far as the series between the Blues, I mean, usually playoff series is, to me, I mean, yeah, the Wild have good offense, they have good defensemen, but if your goaltender ain't playing worth a hoot, you're probably not going to do much. So it kind of comes down for me to whose goaltender is going to be better in this series.
Well, I think so, especially when you any sort of parity matchup, right? Say it's football and you have a team, it's basically a matchup that's dead even. It's going to be who's going to make those mistakes, who's going to turn the ball over, right? What quarterback's going to play better, make those big throws? In the hockey world, we talk to NBA. Who's going to be that guy in the fourth quarter to get that bucket? In the NHL, it's whose goalie's going to be playing hot, especially in a matchup like this. Can you get those extra saves? Can you get a foot on something and kick it wide? Who's going to be playing well on the back end for us to keep those big bodies out of front of the crease? It's going to be fun. I mean, playoff hockey, I would say, NFL playoffs, it's a step completely up from regular season. But from a viewer, a fan, my perspective, where I've never played hockey before, playoff hockey is absolutely elite, and I love watching it. I love the excitement, and man, I just want this team to go on a run and just see what this city does, this state does to get behind the Wild. It'd be pretty dang incredible.
Chad mentioned his favorite sport. We'll take our break, and we got NFL draft conversation coming up right after this here on Classic Hits KDUZ. Classic Hits, KDUZ. Good morning. Joel Niemeyer here, along with former Minnesota Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway. Now, for those listening, me and Chad are recording this on Thursday before the Vikings even start their NFL draft here. But this kind of weekend, I mean, for guys like you that have been in the league, and this is kind of almost a holiday as you get to welcome some new brothers into the league.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'll tell you, when I was obviously growing up, this was one of my favorite days of all year. I mean, no question about it. You get to see the draft. You get to see these guys, realize their dreams. And, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking this is going to be me someday. And then I get to that day, and I get to accomplish that. And there's really no, in football sense, the pride, the wow factor, just the unbelievable feeling. I don't know that it gets a lot bigger than draft day because it's all that worry and work and grind to get to that point to hear your name called. I don't care if it's pick 1 or pick 300. I mean, it's unbelievable. And just an unbelievable feeling for the family, for everybody involved. And just, I remember my draft day like it was yesterday. So much fun. And then when I got in the league, it was always exciting. I mean, I was always in a position where I felt pretty comfortable about my position on the team and my lot in life sort of in the NFL. And so it became exciting to me to say, okay, who do we get to add and how can they help us win now? Because at the end of the day, when I'm sitting there on the roster and know I'm going to be on the team the next year, I want to win now. And I want guys that are going to come in and play kind of football our way. And I have to believe with this new regime coming in, such a talented team sitting here, that, we have a good draft and, stockpile some good picks here. We have a chance to really kind of turn the tide here pretty quickly. And that's what's most exciting, I think, in Vikings football right now.
Well, you mentioned new management, and we've gotten a little bit of a taste here in the last few weeks, months of what the new management is like, but we really haven't seen a lot of football decisions. This weekend, we get to see some final football decisions to kind of see, okay, what kind of philosophy, what kind of things is this new management going to be doing for the Vikings?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think I've loved what I've heard so far in the media. I love their approach. I've loved their sort of I know it's analytically based, and that's kind of been this keyword that people have really been talking about. And I think it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to learn a lot about Kwesi these next 3 or 4 days, and the direction of where we're going. And I just have a inkling that we're going to be very, very excited. He just seems to have a really good head about him, a clear picture in front of him, especially for a guy who's so young and really new to kind of leading this thing. So we know ownership is behind him. We know the organization's behind him. It seems like they're really aligned from the coaching staff up to the GM. So, what an exciting time. Obviously when listeners are listening to this, we may look like idiots, but I think it could be a trade back scenario. I really do. I think a trade up or trade back. If you really love somebody in front of you that you can't get, you may move up, but I can picture a trade back here too.
Well, I'll ask it this way, because as mentioned, the Vikings' first round draft is already in the books by the time this airs. So I will say this: once the weekend is over, and it's Sunday morning, what do you want to see the Vikings get out of this draft?
Well, you got to have a starter in the back end. You got to have I want to see a cornerback that can come in and start, or a swing guy that can play inside or outside, nickel and corner. That's what we have to come out of this draft with. I want to see way more depth at D-line. If we're going to play some 3-4, we need some pieces that can move around and be creative. Can you have a guy that can go 3-4 and a guy that can go 4-3, put his hand in the ground? I just think you have to have those two pieces, and O-line depth. Without question, you look at a position that's going to get hurt, injured. I think you find some. This is sort of in what's been called kind of an undervalued draft. I think a lot of people are looking what the quarterbacks are bringing to the table this year. But guess what? We have Kirk. We don't need that position. So there's value in other positions that we need.
I forget what year it was, but I remember, I'll say like 5-10 years ago, and the Vikings got, I'll say 9 picks or thereabouts, and we hit on like 5 or 6 of those picks, and they came in as contributors. Maybe not starters, but significant contributors for the Vikings. Can this team get and target 5 or 6 contributors to play next year?
Oh, I think so. I think they absolutely can. I think that's this type of draft and this type of regime that's going to look at these kids and say, we're going to bring these kids in. I think it's less likely. I think if you look at 2 or 3 of impact players, is probably the most likely scenario. But it's absolutely possible. And I think that I don't know that the depth of the draft is there, but also I think because it's been so undervalued by the quote unquote experts, that I don't know that we really know what's going to be there in 4, 5, and 6. And I'm very interested to see what we find.
After the draft, is this team done, or do you see more pieces being grabbed here after the draft?
Yeah, I think we're probably done. I think that there's not going to be a lot. I don't think there's going to be a lot of extra craziness. Honestly, I think what's going to happen is you're going to get this draft, and you're going to want to get started on what you have in front of you that you know you have. But that's just my 2 cents. I mean, maybe there's some moving around, but I got to believe that moving around is going to happen these next 3 days. It's not going to happen post draft.
Sounds good, Chad. Hey, we'll chat.